It sure makes the bye week and everything's feel much better. I think the whole thing about the game is playing a division team. You in order to win the division, you have to win your division games first off. That's the easiest way. And by beating the Browns, that enables us to get one step closer to winning the AFC North.
I'm going to step right in here because I know everybody is asking about Andy Dalton. Can a quarterback...
Going to take that? It was that quick, huh?
Well, we got to. We don't have a lot of time. You're here 30 minutes.
Sit down.
Well, sit down. Relax. We're only here 30 minutes. You've said some stuff about Andy over the weeks, and so I'm going to ask a question that might sound silly on its face, but maybe it's not. Can a quarterback, Marvin, be too conscientious? Can a guy try too hard? And let me back up a little bit and say you have said that Andy needs to play carefree. Andy needs not to read what people like me write, which I wouldn't write.
Exactly.
I wouldn't read it either. Okay. Andy needs to play carefree, but when you say that, I interpret it to mean that Andy needs to worry about Andy and worry about what's going on the field and nothing else. Can a guy like Andy or any quarterback be too conscientious?
I think Andy can be too concerned with trying to get the ball to one certain player at times. And that was probably his biggest mistake in the game on the first interception. And that's the only thing he did. We screwed up a lot on that play. And Andy gets the blame for it, okay, because ultimately he's in control of the football. But we didn't have things developed the way they should develop, and that's our fault. And the second interception was not Andy Dalton's responsibility, even though it went back for a touchdown, and he's the one who releases the football. So a lot of things have to happen. Quarterback gets the blame of things. He has been the same quarterback over these 3 football games as he was over the previous 4 football games when everybody was saying all these great things and accolades and so forth. He just has to play carefree. He can't get pushed around and knocked around in the pocket. He needs to know our guys are going to get to the proper depths, come to the stems. Everybody's got to be in the right spot so he can deliver the football, as I termed it, carefree, and know that you're going to get there and you're going to be where you need to be so that we don't turn the football over. Because the number one stat in NFL year after year after year is turnovers.
Some would say it's all cute and sweet that the locker room has his back after 8 interceptions in 3 games, but it is a little different. You have a guy on defense, Michael Johnson, speaking out this past Sunday. You have A.J. Green speaking out saying, that's on me. Some of those interceptions are on me. It has to be a little different, something we didn't see all the time maybe 3-4 years ago.
Well, you got a different, in A.J. you have as I've said from day number 1, a tremendous, tremendous young man who has matching ability, and that's what makes him special. And so, we've got a football team that's well put together with really good people, and they got Michael, I guess, got somewhat offended, but again, we're not going to win that battle, and so we got to just let that one go. I thought the crowd was marvelous on Sunday. We've been enjoying a tremendous home field advantage, and we understand, as I said earlier today, people don't understand what happens sometimes, and the quarterback unfortunately plays the position that they get the blame, just like the cornerbacks on defense. Everybody can see when that ball goes over your head and they strike up the fight song for the other team, and it's the same thing with the quarterback.
So I guess by carefree, Marvin, that means, let's turn it another way. Is this offense further ahead than last year at this time?
Oh, way further ahead. Yeah, we're way further ahead than we've been, and maybe been ever since I've been here. We do things very productively. We got into a football game on Sunday with the conditions of the wind in the third quarter with the rain, where we had to take care of the football. That was the most important thing, was to not lose the football game after we gained control of the game again. So at the end of the day, it doesn't look the way you want to, and those guys, they know that on the situation on the other side, they're going to gang up, and so some of the things that we could have maybe come out in the second half and virtually got after them with, we didn't need to use. We a lot of things kind of stayed in our pocket that day.
You guys have talked a lot about wanting more explosion in the running game. I know Jay has talked about that and trying to get that going. But how encouraging is it to have that second half that did end out the way you guys ran? It was 15 straight run plays before the touchdown pass, and were able to really salt the game away.
Well, we just couldn't stand our prosperity, right? We just had to throw it in, you know what I mean? But, yeah. It's funny. I told Jay today, Monday, I said, when you called that play, I want to say, Jay, let's just run it in. You got 4 downs here, run it in. And when he called the play, I knew it was going to be wide open. I knew Alex would be wide open on the play. It's a very difficult play to defend defensively, and takes a lot of discipline by everybody. So, and we needed to score. It was great to score. But sometimes you got to feed those offensive linemen a little bit of a bone and let us run it in after we run it all the way down the field. And, but again, it was a big win for us. One, obviously, with a lot of emotion, with, the defense having to take the field in short field, hold them to the 2 field goals. And then, we get the interception back for a touchdown. And so we're down 13-0, and you're starting doing one of those things where you're multiplying on the sideline. Let's see, and then James makes the big play that kind of rights the ship, gets us going, and then the rest of it's history.
I'm going to do what you might consider impossible, and I'm going to do my best to ask you a positive question.
Wow.
I still refuse to believe it.
The window's just open.
Next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be on my best behavior. Top 2 tacklers on Sunday, undrafted free agents. Vontaze Burfict, to the untrained eye, looks like a Pro Bowl player to me.
To the trained eye as well.
Okay, well then I feel vindicated. Vinny Ray, in place of Ray Maluga, has also played very well. We know, at least us at the table, know about your personal interest in Vontaze and getting him here. And did you have a personal touch also with Vinny? And if you want to talk about both of those guys.
I did. Jim Collins was Vinny's position coach at Duke University. I coached with Jim in 2002 at the Redskins. And Jimmy was here in Cincinnati recruiting. It might have been Luke Kuechly, actually, or one of the kids locally here. And he told me about Vinny Ray back then. And he said, I got a kid who's playing for me now that probably won't get drafted but deserves an opportunity to play in the NFL. I think he's good enough to make it as a backup linebacker, special teams player. And we were fortunate enough after the draft, with Jim's help, to get Vinny Ray here. And I was teasing Vinny today because at one point Seattle had offered Vinny an opportunity to join their 53-man roster when he was on our practice squad. And we literally got him off the plane at CVG to tell him that we couldn't promise him we would put him on the roster that week, but that we would get him up over the next 2 weeks. And so he came back to our practice squad, and the rest obviously is history. He got a chance to get moved up to the roster, and he's really done what we expected Vinny to do. He's very intelligent, obviously. He's a great young man, and he does everything the way he's been coached to do it. Every small detail. And so it's really been a tribute to him, the kind of person he is. Dahani Jones was a great mentor for Vinny of how to develop as a young man in the National Football League.
I guess on the same respect there, you talk about finding talent with undrafted guys, because you have had this success. What is the key? What do you look for? What do you need to see in a guy, an undrafted guy, to know that he's one that could develop into a Vinny Ray or a
Well,
Vontaze?
it depends on the position, but the most thing I'm looking for is hips and explosion. And that's what I look for, whether it was Ray Lewis when I shut off the video after 5 snaps and went and got LeBeau. I said, Dick, look at this guy.
Yeah.
And, and then I introduced myself to Ray at the Combine. I said, hey, I just want to tell you, you're a great football player. I know I'll never get a chance to coach you because I was still in Pittsburgh at the time. And, lo and behold, that I get an opportunity to we draft him in Baltimore. So when I go over there later in the year. But those are the things. I'm looking for the same qualities of anybody we pick, and just that they are, maybe they're not tall enough, they're not big enough. In Vontez's case, he alienated everybody around him, but he was overweight. But when you looked at it's like that lump of coal. I really believe there was a diamond there, and I told Mike Brown after the second practice of rookie minicamp, I'm just telling you this, but he's very good. And I don't want to tell anybody else, but understand what I'm telling you. This kid, he's got it. And he's continued to demonstrate it. And I'm very happy for him. We can't have the penalties, and I got after his butt for the stupid penalty this week. We can't have that because he doesn't need to do that. He's too good a player, and this is not WWF. This is National Football League, and you need to respect that.
Speaking of Vontez, you've been around a lot of defensive guys, including Ray Lewis. Does he remind you of anybody so early in their career that gets the game, just instinct of the game, that doesn't really need
He
coaching?
reminds me of Ray. And Ray reminded me of Greg Lloyd. I told Greg Lloyd that when Ray was a rookie. I said, I'm coaching someone that's very similar to you. And, Ray took it and ran with it. And Vontez, he's got exceptional ability. He's got exceptional intelligence, both on the field and off the field. And he's a homebody type of kid. So he's got all that going for him.
Just, Marvin, in terms of your roster with undrafted guys, how come there has been success with the linebackers? You've had Dan Skuda, Vontez now.
Well, I know what I'm looking for. I've had an opportunity. I can remember my first, from Idaho State when I started in coaching, to having the opportunity to go down to Long Beach and going to see the first big-time football player I ever saw in California was Junior Seau. And I remember having a chance to go down and see him in high school and saying, this is what a real player looks like. And you just take those models and you just keep working with them and using them all the time. And you live and learn about things. I tease, that if it weren't for Michael Barrow and Jesse Armstead, there probably weren't a Ray Lewis, because I underestimated how good they would be in the NFL the years when they came out, the 2 years previous to Ray. So when Ray came out, I said, oh, okay, these guys, Ray does this better than those guys, this better than those guys. And he's a little shorter, but he's got that kind of explosion.
Plus, you played linebacker. Do you?
Yeah, but I cheated. I was an undersized safety who played linebacker, but I would listen to the offensive team in the huddle.
Right.
I cheated. Okay, I would listen to the offensive team in the huddle. I had to have an edge, Paul. I wasn't very good.
But do you do any hands-on coaching now with linebackers?
Oh yeah, they unfortunately for them too much.
Okay.
Well, we are certainly not done here at the Moerlein Lager. I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight to hang out with Marvin Lewis. We've got plenty more coming at you. We'll talk more about a very important stretch run that this team is facing when they come back. So we'll be right back here on Beyond the Stripes, presented by JoeSfato.com.
I repeat, do not buy a 2013 Chevy from another dealer. Not when you can get a 2014 from Joseph Chevrolet for the same price or less. Seriously, Joseph Chevrolet's 2014s are a better deal than anyone else's 2013s. $129 a month for a new Cruise? Up to $6,500 off a 2014 Silverado? Now that's a clearance sale. Don't pay more for a 2013 than a 2014. Come to Joseph Chevrolet now.
Uncle Ray.
Where should we go to eat tonight?
How are the Reds doing?
What time does the movie start?
Did you hear about the new Bengals
Check
player?
out this photo gallery.
Did you check out the bands coming to the
shared
show?
That's
great.
I missed the story.
Sure, what?
If you don't read The Inquirer at Cincinnati.com, you're missing out on what everyone's talking about. Breaking news, the best local events calendar, and in-depth stories. Updated all day long. Subscribe now at Cincinnati.com/subscribe. The Inquirer at Cincinnati.com. It's what everyone's talking about.
All right, welcome back to Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond the Stripes with Paul Daugherty, presented by JoeSfato.com. We're still here at the Moerlein Lager House. People are still drinking beers, which means they're very happy. And we are happy to have Marvin Lewis still here with us. Well, you go into the bye week and then a stretch run of 5 games, December and January. This is where you make the donuts, so to speak. How do you feel like this team right now is different than the one the last 2 years?
Well, I thought the one last 2 years they went 7-2 from the bye. Yeah. So we did what we needed to do. We were 3-4 going into the bye or was something to that effect, and we lost the Broncos after that with a game where we played pretty well, except for about 5 plays. And then we went on a stretch where we played great football, and we figured things out. And so that's what we did, spend a lot of time today with our players, looking at us, looking forward to what we have to fix and get better at. And then the coaches will spend the next 3 days continuing on that, and then we'll come back with the guys on Monday. So that's the thing. We have an opportunity to do something special, and all we need to worry about is us. Last year, towards the end of the year, we needed some things to go right for us, which obviously they did, and we did our thing. But this year, we just got to do our thing, and that's what you want. I said everybody from the start, the way our schedule was at the start of the season, we would know what kind of football team we have. And we got through that stretch. We went through this next stretch about even, and now we have an opportunity to really finish things the right way.
How much easier is it to coach, quote-unquote, high-character individuals? You had a team in 2005 that was extremely talented but had some character issues. You have a team now that's extremely talented that really does not. Is it more fun to coach these guys? Is it easier to coach guys like this? Have you learned since 2005, or maybe even before that, the importance of having guys with good character as well as great football players?
Well, I think that the difference is, Paul, the development of 2005 from 2003. I used to have to count heads. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somebody's missing now. Wait a second. Are you in charge of him today? And
I remember.
And this is professional football. If they don't show up at the Inquirer, they're not there, right? You don't go looking for them. They're done. And that's the difference. These guys have been trained to win. They've been here. They've been trained the correct way. They've been winning. They're used to winning. They know this is not only their job, but it's their career, and it's very short-lived. And if you can't make it with me, they're done for the most part. And they understand that. So because I spend my time with our players, and that's important to me, that I know everything they do all the time as far as the football goes and what time they show up and how they show up. That's important. So I think that's the difference. So I think this football team understands that. And, where when you're trying to make the conversion to winning football, a lot of us think we did more than we did in helping the team win, and that's an issue. You know what I mean? We think our value is too great, and that's a problem. We're not dealing with that.
You have 8 guys on the IR on defense, and it's unbelievable, the next man up in that locker room. They say it all the time. Michael Johnson, any of the defensive guys, Carlos Dunlap, they're like, we just step up. We know we need to step up. When Gino went down, when Leon Hall went down, they definitely have stepped up. The guys just take next man up to another level.
Well, we went into training camp very deep, as you want to do in the secondary. You're fortunate when you lose a guy and you can put in a number 1 pick that we can put Dre in. And, you're fortunate to be able to do that. And then defensive line, the same thing, the fact that now we're asking Michael and Carlos, you got to play better. Gino's gone. You got to play better. Domata's playing more. Brandon Thompson. We'll get Devin Steele back now. So these guys who we drafted to play, who've kind of been in the apprentice program, now have an opportunity to move forward. And then Marcus Hunt. So this is a great thing to have that chance and that opportunity. That's why they're here. And, just like the Vinny Ray story, every time you have a guy like Vinny Ray get an opportunity to step on the field and do good, it pushes the other guy. You know what? Coach is right. I tell you all have a role. You're here for a reason. You were handpicked. Nobody else watched. I watched tape on each and every one of you, and you fit a mold that I think is going to help us win, or else you wouldn't be here.
You talked a lot about the coaches the next 3 days, kind of evaluating things. In this case, is it a case of looking back, or are you looking ahead at the next couple opponents?
No, we're looking back. We're looking at us. We're looking at us. We're looking at us on each side of the football. And then I also have our guys cross-checking across the ball. So, and writing an evaluation, doing a video evaluation, and looking at what we do and how we do it. So if we were playing the Cincinnati Bengals, this is what I see, so they can provide that information to the other side of the ball, the coaches, the coordinators, and myself. This is how I see us. So I think this is what the opponent looks at. This is our strength in this particular area. This is our weakness, and here's our tendencies.
You know, you'll be in that room with a couple of coordinators that have been sought after for a couple of years because of the job they've done for you. I guess when you look at those guys, what for you? You made the move from a coordinator to a first-time head coach. What's the biggest challenge in doing that, and how tough is that to do?
Well, the first challenge, Paul, is putting together a coaching staff, because if I was going to hire the four of you,
that's not a good thing.
No. Joe would want too much money.
But I would know your salary cap.
And Lindsay, I know, but we got a budget, Joe. And then Lindsay would say, well, but I like the guy over there a little more, so I'm going to go over here, and I think he's going to help me move forward. And then one of you would be under contract and wouldn't be able to get you, even though you thought you could leave. So that's the first challenge, is putting together a coaching staff. And then the second challenge, once you get there, is injuries, because the thing that spoils the unseen thing is injuries that happen to your football team.
You have done another positive question, Marvin. You've done a really good job, an outstanding job in the last 3-4 years gathering talent. We had the question about the depth and Vinny Ray being able to come in, Wallace Gilberry, Adam Jones, on and on and on. Why is it in the last 4 years you and your staff have done a particularly good job, not only of drafting, but of bringing in undrafted guys? And second part of that question, if and when you get out of coaching, would you consider a role in a personnel department?
Well, let me answer the second part first. I love looking at players. I go back to when I was getting an opportunity as a college coach. I love the recruiting aspect of looking at players and finding good players and doing that, turning over to the rock and seeing the guy that had the characteristics you're looking for. So I enjoy that. And the last couple of years since the lockout, I had so much fun during the lockout, I really got back into it again as the head coach. And I hadn't been on the road out as much. I still watched all the video. And the best thing about it now is I have the same setup at home as I have at work. So I don't have to stay at the office during the off season when we're starting to evaluate the college players in March, April. I can go home and when I'm ready and do the same thing at home at some point. So I love that part of watching the video. And then as far as the guys like the Adam Joneses and Wallace Gilberries and that's too, is watching them play NFL football, having an opportunity to bring them here, spend some time, and getting them to understand this is what I see your role is going to be. You've got to be able to handle that role, and this is what we're going to ask of you, and them convincing them that that's the most important thing in their life is going to be the opportunity to be here and be a part of the football team. So, and we've done that, and I think again, Duke Tobin has done in our personnel staff. They continue to do a great job, but Duke is kind of, even though Mike still has the general manager type title, Duke in many teams would be considered the general manager, if not the director of football operations, personnel director, who's working very closely, and he's always, whether it's adding a NFL free agent player from the street, UFA or RFA after the season, and organizing our guys and our people for the draft, and then helping set up the draft board. He's done a great job.
David Pollack recently said that before you guys drafted A.J. Green, you knew what kind of player he was, but you asked about his personality. Do you talk to a lot of former players about guys before you draft them, maybe guys that they've seen?
A guy like David, who knows us, knows me, and has some experience on campus there at Georgia, obviously, and Athens. So David's been a great resource, because of he knowing the kind of the quality of the person that David was and so forth. And that's good. A lot of my contacts now have gone on out of college football. But it is good that we want to know more of the character, and that's what, by going to the campus when we can and watching how a guy interacts with the equipment person, with his teammates and everything that way. And that was the one thing that was impressive about Vontaze. Even though he was such a knucklehead that day at Arizona State, he was encouraging his teammates to do well. He was engaged in what they were doing, even though he wouldn't run the 40-yard dash for me again. He was engaged in everybody else doing it, and when he went to work out, they were engaged in him. And so you could tell that they liked the kid, and that was big. You know, being around, watching Cam Newton last night, going to Auburn and watching Cam interact with his teammates was important because he's the leader of the football team. He's the guy. You know, we go to TCU to work out Andy Dalton, and the whole indoor facility is filled with his teammates to watch us work Andy out. So you could tell that they loved Andy, and that's important for the leader of your football team.
The draft is 2 weeks later this year. Does it help you guys or hurt or more second guessing or does it help in free agency?
Well, you know, I'm not a big in agreement with the NFL and how we're doing things that way, but it is what it is, and I think we'll just start to begin the process later. That's all. So for the coaches, we're going to have to organize our schedule, so we'll have a little bit more opportunity to spend some time on us, and that'll be good. You know, hopefully we're busy all the way through that first weekend in February because, as I told our guys, you know, 5 gives us an opportunity for 10, and that's what we're looking for. And that's the important part, that we're, you know, they can have hopefully an extended vacation and then get on back to us in football before we get into the NFL free agents and then later the college draft.
Talking about the NFL and the big picture, the game isn't look the same as it did when you first started. You know, it's changed dramatically. The old days of grinding it out in the AFC North or the Central, I guess, aren't the same. Do you like the direction that the game of football has gone? Obviously, it's necessitated by safety, but do you like the direction the game of football has changed in recent years?
Off the record.
Yeah. Well, you know, I coached the first the combatants in it, so you know, in Pittsburgh. So I started there with the first group of guys who laid quarterbacks out and got paid to do it. And but it's changed, and it's changing for we're adjusting the game for the right reasons. You know, this is a great game for young people to play, and it's a great. You learn so much from playing sports, but from playing football particularly, the teamwork, toughness, working towards goals, the conditioning element, all the things that you learn from football, athleticism and so forth, but you learn about things that will help you later in life. And we want young people to play football. And so whatever changes we need to make so that everybody feels good about their I think 6 is too young. Their 8, 9, 10-year-old to play football, I'm all for it. And we want to continue to work down that way.
Well, that was kind of my next question. I mean, knowing what we know now, and we continue to learn about head trauma, CTE, guys later in life having difficulties because of what happened to them on the field. If you had to do it all over again, would you allow your son Marcus to play?
Oh, I would, well, no doubt. But we're still waiting for the first person with a head trauma issue that hasn't lost their butt in some kind of other activity as far as their money goes in their personal life. So it's ironic coincidence that, you know, because we don't know right now. There's a lot of proponents on this side that say yes because that's how they're paid. That's how they get their grants. And there's these proponents on this side who say no. But the only one, the group in the middle, is this group of that have had issues where they've lost their money in investments and other things. And unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with a lot. And is there something there? No one knows yet. But it provides a great opportunity for a lot of people. I think that we're still, through the medical field and the science, it's an untold story still.
Well, You've been fantastic coming here to join us. So I want everybody here at the Moerlein Lager House to thank Marvin Lewis for coming out to join us here tonight. Marvin is a busy man. He has to prepare for the game in 2 weeks against San Diego. He's going to be doing that for day and night for the next 2 weeks, I'm sure. So he's got to take off. We're so happy he can come join us. Don't worry, we'll still be here. I know that's not as exciting, but we will, and you're stuck with us. So we'll be here back for a couple more segments. So thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Stripes of Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com.
Chris, how you doing?
Hey, what's happening? This place looks awesome. Brand new showroom, brand new service department. Now all I need is a new caddy. I'm thinking the North American Car of the Year, the ATS right here. What do you think?
Nice car, Chris, and only $299 a month. But a guy your size, you need the comfort, the technology that this car has. The XTS for only $399 a month.
For $100 more, I can do this?
$100.
I'll win that from you on the golf course. Come on, let's do it.
Compliments of Camargo Cadillac.
Where should we go to eat tonight?
How are the Reds doing?
What time does the movie start?
Did you hear about the new Bengals
Check
player?
out this photo gallery.
Did you check out the bands coming to your show?
That's the story.
Sure, what?
If you don't read The Inquirer at Cincinnati.com, you're missing out on what everyone's talking about. Breaking news, the best local events calendar, and in-depth stories. Updated all day long. Subscribe now at Cincinnati.com/subscribe. The Inquirer and Cincinnati.com. It's what everyone's talking about.
The Moerlein Lager House is Cincinnati's premier brew pub. The restaurant features impressive lunch and dinner menus, as well as a wide selection of beer and other drinks. The Lager House is also proud to continue Cincinnati's brewing heritage by brewing their own fresh craft beer on site. Conveniently located along the riverfront, the Moerlein Lager House offers spectacular views while you dine. Moerlein Lager House. Celebrate the past, taste the future.
All right, welcome back to Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond the Stripes of Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com. We are still here live at the Moerlein Lager House. I want to thank everybody who's been coming out tonight. Hopefully you'll stick around. We plan on having fun, even though Marvin Lewis isn't here with us anymore. But we do want to hit on a few things, a few interesting things that Marvin had to say. I guess, Doc, I want to start with this. I thought the comments comparing Vontaze Burfict with Ray Lewis were very telling. Marvin obviously holds Ray in very, very high regard. To mention a guy who was undrafted and only in his second season in the same breath as a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer is high praise.
No question. I was taken aback by that. I'd never heard him say anything like that. I think this is Marvin's strength, frankly. The personnel side of Marvin, being able to recognize talent, having the contacts that he has in the league, being able to pull in guys like Dahani Jones off the beach a couple of years ago when they needed a linebacker, Ced Benson. The hold that Marvin has on guys, the respect that he has around the league, and his ability to spot talent, I think sets him apart. And with Vontaze, like he said, nobody wanted him. They got a lot of guys in that defense that nobody wanted. And it's a pretty damn good defense. That is a tribute to Marvin and, as he said, Duke Tobin, the de facto general manager, as Marvin said. Yeah, his ability to spot talent has really helped this organization.
Did that surprise you, Joe? I mean, we've heard Marvin talk quite a bit about Tez. Did that surprise you to hear that kind of a comparison?
Well, I think when we look at Burfict, we would all agree that if it wasn't for the on-field stuff, that he'd probably be a high draft pick. And he had about the worst pre-draft process known to man. But Vontaze also recruited this team. He recruited Marvin Lewis. He knew how much he screwed up at Arizona State. And I remember when we were at the draft a couple years ago, after the 5th round, Vontaze Burfict called Marvin Lewis in the draft room as he was waiting for all the reporters to come down and stuff. And Marvin's like, just, bide your time, and if you're available, we're going to sign you. And the effect that Vontaze took to recruit this team, knowing what Ray Lewis did with Marvin and the player that he's become, is an encouraging sign.
Yeah, and I think on the next level, I think another interesting thing we heard, Linz, is the concept of 2013 and 2005, the difference, the counting of the heads concept of where are those guys? I'm making sure everybody's here. How big of a difference have you seen that has made in this team?
You know, just in the locker room alone, you can tell, like I said to Marvin, the guys in there, the defensive guys, somebody gets injured, they're all brothers. They're all ready to go. They're ready to step up and take that position of somebody who has fallen or who is injured or who's out. It doesn't even faze them. They don't think about it. They actually get frustrated with being asked, this guy's out, what are you guys going to do? They don't worry about it. And I think that's what's different. They're all there to win. They're all there to help each other out if someone needs the help. And I think that's just one of the major differences I see on defense alone with 2005 and 2013.
I'll tell you what's different. Hugh Jackson doesn't have to call certain wide receivers at midnight to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
You're not naming any names, though.
No, we don't need to name any names. I think everybody knows of whom I speak.
Yeah.
There's no babysitting that we know of going on, whereas in 05, if a guy wasn't where he was supposed to be, you might want to call the cop shot next to see, have you heard about this guy? Is he still out someplace? What's he doing? Marvin is allowed, and his coaches are allowed to coach now. Not only that, as he pointed out, these guys are used to a winning culture. They understand proverbially what it takes to be successful. I think that's huge. And I think now that has occurred, they can spend their time playing, doing coachly things instead of worrying about checking police blotters for players.
And I think the other important thing, too, is when Marvin came in 2003, he had to teach this group how to win. They didn't know that the 04 to 05 to 06 group, winning was new for them, and it got to their heads. Where when we talk about this reboot and everything, that 11 group and stuff was easier because you had a core from 09 that knew what it was like to win here. Right. And it was also easier with that 11 to put in a rookie quarterback. In 03, Marvin was trying to get credentials within this locker room and also teaching this group how to win, which was the important thing first.
And this will sound like coach speak, but let's be honest, it's about these games really are won during the week in so many ways. And Joe, you can remember, I remember being in those locker rooms in 2010 and 2009 where during the week it was a circus. It was guys going crazy about what had happened on the basketball court or just out there telling jokes the whole time or dancing and listening to music.
Or nowhere to be found.
It's not like that, or nowhere to be found. It's not like that anymore. Now it's much different. It's business. It's all business in there, and it's all football, and that's what guys care about. And I think that's the culture change, and that's when it became the complete. And we talked about the changing to having the character guys. That's what it is. The week becomes about football and not as much about being in a football locker room.
And you also, it's very important to know that you can depend on the guy that's lining up next to you. In the Chris Henry, God rest his soul, Odell Thurman, Chad era, you really weren't always sure not only if you could depend on him or if he'd even be there. Being there is pretty important, and I obviously they don't have that issue anymore.
All right, let's hear from Marvin Lewis, Andy Dalton, and Tony Dye after that big win against Cleveland.
Great resilience, perseverance, and ability to come back, and I thought the defense just, really did a great job.
Can I describe my emotions when I got the call? Can you describe the dream coming true?
It comes at a good time. We've got 5 games after the bye, and it's going to be a good stretch.
And we all just try to do whatever we can to get the W.
You got to rise up and play in all 3 phases, and our defense and special teams today gave our offense a lift and able to get them going, and then we settled down and started playing. We're in a good position right now. For us to be leading the division, having this bye right now, and a chance to get healthy and get some rest. It comes at a good time for us.
I didn't hear anything. All I saw was the red zone, the end zone. I just picked that up and kept going.
I go out there, I'm just like, Coach, what do you need me to do? I'm going to do it as hard as I can. And that's how our whole team approaches every single game.
We win with all 3 phases, and today it was a great job of the defense getting the offense going with some momentum. Special teams, obviously, what they did all day was tremendous.
All right. We heard from the important players in Sunday's win, but there's really no more important player than Andy Dalton this season. The other big topic, you wasted no time. You said, Marv's here, let's get into him.
Yeah, of course. That's the topic of the day, isn't it?
It always is.
Yeah.
So I guess of what he said, the carefree, playing carefree, not worrying as much about throwing to 18,
right.
Did that resonate? Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah. I mean, and he's also right. Marvin is right in saying that the quarterback gets too much praise and too much blame. We all know that. But I'm watching Cam Newton last night in a big game, a big moment in the game, which was the last drive, the last 6 minutes where they have an 83-yard drive and he accounts for like 72 or 3 of the yards, whatever it was. He captured that big moment. That's what I want to see Andy Dalton do. I have not seen him do that, and until I do, I'm going to be skeptical. And you can say it takes a whole team to make a quarterback look good, and you're absolutely right. But I see talent around Andy Dalton that is superior to the talent that Cam Newton has around him. And until Andy Dalton makes that corner, and I'm not saying he won't, he might, but until he does, I think it's fair to be somewhat skeptical about his ability to win in a big moment.
I think we thought the Detroit game was that. I remember us sitting here after the Detroit game saying Andy had turned the corner because he finally figured out a way to win a game on his arm, and it was on him.
Was that a big moment? A game,
it was at that point in the season.
Not even a non-conference game, a non-divisional game.
On the road, though,
yeah,
a tough team.
Detroit. Nobody's
we
going to
made
remember.
it a big deal. We made it a big deal at the time.
Well, that's because that's what we do. But nobody's sitting around saying, yeah, remember that big game that Dalton had against the Lions? No.
That team finally put points on the board, and I think that was one of the biggest concerns is, can this team score? We need to see them offensively put some points on the board, and I think what he did there in Detroit was pretty big.
The problem is the peaks and the valleys, though, right, Joe?
Right. Here's the problem with Andy. The peaks are here. The valleys are here. There's got to be a closure between the two because, as you eloquently illustrated last week, there's good Andy, there's bad Andy.
Right.
Sunday I would term it raggedy Andy.
Raggedy Andy. Yeah.
But there's got to be consistency and closing of the gaps, and it's like Billy Joel. He goes through extremes, and until he closes that gap, there's going to be questions.
But the bottom line is this: if the Andy of October shows up in December and January, this team is legitimate. And the question is, will he, I guess, and that's what everybody's wondering in this city.
I think they're legitimate now. I think their defense legitimizes them already. I think to be a serious Super Bowl team, yes.
Right.
Andy Dalton has to do what he did in October.
Hasn't the bar raised, though?
I'll settle for one playoff win before we start talking Super Bowl.
I think most here would probably do that. I mean,
and
isn't that fair,
if you
though?
get 2 playoff wins or even 1, and you get to that AFC Championship game, then I think people will be happy. People will see growth. People will see progress. But I also do agree with Marvin in the fact that, let's look at 2 out of the last 3 weeks, offensive line has not done well. Marvin Jones, we're waiting for him from that Jets game. Mohamed Sanu finally came alive a little bit in that Cleveland game. Tight ends, got to be more consistent. Dane Sanzenbacher, where the heck has he been since the Detroit game? Andrew Hawkins.
He was right here last week.
Right. Andrew Hawkins, we're waiting for that guy. The running game, we're looking for consistency. Yes, there's a lot lumped on the quarterback, but it's also the rest of this group. And Jay Gruden throwing into monsoons during the third quarter doesn't help matters either.
No doubt about it. Well, hey, we're going to come back. And as always, Joe and I have to yell at each other. A little bit of debate that we're going to get into. Doc, of course, will weave some very fine words of wisdom that we all will quietly listen to like a bedtime story. But anyway, so we'll be right back here. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the Moerlein Lager House tonight. Hope you're having a lot of fun. So we'll be right back here on Beyond the Stripes, presented by JoeSavato.com.
Do not, I repeat, do not buy a 2013 Chevy from another dealer. Not when you can get a 2014 from Joseph Chevrolet for the same price or less. Seriously, Joseph Chevrolet's 2014s are a better deal than anyone else's 2013s. $129 a month for a new Cruise? Up to $6,500 off a 2014 Silverado? Now that's a clearance sale. Don't pay more for a 2013 than a 2014. Come to Joseph Chevrolet now.
Uncle Ray. Where should we go to eat tonight?
How are the Reds doing?
What time does the movie start?
Did you hear about the new Bengals
Check
player?
out this photo gallery.
Did you check out the bands coming to
I
the
saw
show?
the
story.
She wore what?
If you don't read The Enquirer at Cincinnati.com, you're missing out on what everyone's talking about. Breaking news, the best local events calendar, and in-depth stories. Updated all day long. Subscribe now at Cincinnati.com/subscribe. The Enquirer at Cincinnati.com. It's what everyone's talking about.
Welcome back. You know, we don't talk much about scouting and personnel, people, because, well, scouting and personnel talk is dull. But it's also a huge reason the Bengals are 7-4. Remember all the years we begged Mike Brown to hire a general manager? If only the Bengals had competent people drafting and combing the waiver wires. Look at Pittsburgh, we said. Look at Baltimore. Well, now those places are looking at Cincinnati. The progress made on the personnel side in the last 4 or 5 years has been astounding. Home run drafts, the signing of undrafted free agents, the plucking of veterans released by other teams, all good. Do the names Burfict, Ray, and Gilberry mean anything to you? How about Crocker, Newman, Adam Jones? They're all major players in the defense's success, and nobody else wanted them. And we're not even talking about the players who were drafted. Geno Atkins was a third-round pick. The Bengals have been consistently successful in the last 3 or 4 years because they haven't made a lot of mistakes in picking players. Their personnel department remains one of the smallest in the league, only now it's one of the best. Guys?
Thank you, Doc. I think one thing to go back to what Marvin talked about, Duke Tobin. I mean, I don't know that I've ever, Joe, have you ever heard him sort of reference Duke Tobin as the pseudo GM like that before?
Pseudo GM, no, but I know that both of them are in constant contact and stuff. And I think another key, too, is the coordinators know what type of players they want. And now the coordinators are able to pass that on to the assistant coaches and pass that on to the scouts, where I think we saw the disaster of 2008, where one coordinator in particular thought he could just take an athlete like Jerome Simpson and put him into a spot, and it doesn't work with philosophy. I think the fact that the coordinators know their philosophy, know the players, and that gets down to everyone has also been a big advantage.
Personnel, in what Doc's talking about, is the result of stability in a coaching staff as much as anything. The fact that those guys, those coordinators, have not gone anywhere, that the trinity of that has been Jay, Mike, and Marvin now, I think goes further as much into the off-season game plan as it goes into the Sunday game plan. And it's a lot of stuff that they don't really necessarily get a whole lot of credit for that maybe they should.
I don't know, and this is my failing, and maybe you've talked to him a lot. I haven't really had a lot of conversations with Duke Tobin. I think he's a very kind of modest, behind-the-scenes guy, but he's very important to the success of what's going on around here.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think the team wants Marvin Lewis to be the spokesman and everything else to happen behind the scenes, and that's where Duke has been working behind the scenes, and they prefer it that way. You see him in the preseason occasionally on those broadcasts, but outside of that, I think they prefer that how that process works to kind of stay a little bit behind the curtain.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that when Marvin was hired in 2003, he's the spokesman, he's the guy, and you go that way. And I know Doc has people with the team. I got people with the team that we talk to and get information from, that basically everything's an agreement where you talk to the 3-4 same people. It's a consistent thing all the time. And I remember Willie Anderson in 2010 was talking about that. Just get consistency from top to bottom and a consistent philosophy. And I think finally the last 3-4 years they've had it.
All right, Joe, we must debate now. We've talked enough serious football talk. We'll get a little bit of that, but Doc, you're our judge again. Joe, hopefully you have not brought your wallet because it seems to be the only way you can beat me.
I already have it.
It's there was a pre-show distribution of money.
Absolutely.
I'm never made aware of these things. All right, so let's
Plus,
get
there's a
into
giant beer truck at your house with your favorite.
best.
the Christmas day. There's many delightfully flavored beers here that I'd be more than happy to purchase for you, Todd.
I heard that. Go
Okay, so here's the first question that we're going to debate. I'll let Joe go first. There is a glut and a huge mess at the bottom of the AFC. Who gets the last wild card spot of the entire mess that the Jets currently hold at 5-5?
I think I'm going to surprise everybody and go with the Miami Dolphins, considering that's been team chaos. Kevin Coyle, who's been here before with that defense. Ryan Tannehill's impressed me, and I think Mike Wallace with that receivers wants to get it going. I just think that's a locker room that's galvanized, and I think they can beat the Jets a couple times over the next 5-6 games.
Okay, so you had a surprising answer. I'm going to have one. Normally I pander to the crowd. I hate to do this. You're not going to like me. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to end up as the 6th seed in the AFC playoffs. They are figuring it out. Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger are the strongest head coach quarterback combo of all of those teams that are down there, and they're one game out. It's not like it's going to be an impossible hill for them to climb. They're familiar with the situation. They've got guys that have won in the playoffs before. Big Ben's the best of the quarterback. It's a quarterback league. I think the Steelers charge end up stealing that 6th seed.
When's the last time Ben's gone all 16 games?
He seems to be healthy today, is he not? And that's all we can go by right now.
He's healthy right now, but he was healthy week 9 last year.
Any quarterback could get hurt. I mean, Ben plays when he has a leg that needs to be amputated. I don't think anybody's concerned about Ben not taking the field.
He's done that? He's tried to play on a leg that needed to be amputated?
Well,
that's unbelievable.
I thought it needed to be amputated.
Let me mark that down. That's a
I'm not
point
a
in your
doctor.
favor.
I'm not a doctor.
Can we agree how
Amputee
messy
Ben.
the AFC wildcard is? Does anybody in the AFC, the bottom of the AFC, actually want to make the playoffs?
It doesn't seem. I mean, when you have 4 and 6 teams that are right in the thick of it, who really knows what is going to happen? All right, so that's one. You've marked down me mentally as the winner of that, I assume. So the second one, I'll open this up. Biggest disappointment on the Bengals this season. Let me open. You went last time. I think it's Mohamed Sanu, only because he was the guy I think we had him pinpointed as the guy that was going to make a difference for this offense. And this last week was the first week. That was Mohamed Sanu's first touchdown reception of the season. This was the red zone X factor guy. He's had a couple of drops that have cost this team wins as well. Miami, Chicago, the fumble. It's been a concern. I think that we expected more. Not that it won't still happen, or that he hasn't had flashes, but I think people expected him to be what Marvin Jones was in that Jets game.
I'm going to go with Doc's favorite first-round option in Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. The second half of last season, the way he ran the ball, 4 100-yard games in 5 weeks, I expected more. I expected more of this running game, too, with Giovanni Bernard. I thought he would be fresher. I thought he would be better on first down. I thought he would be better on short yardage. He's been a disappointment in short yardage, to be frank and honest. And to me, just Benny, 3.3 yards per carry isn't going to get it done, especially in the playoffs. And to me, he's a bigger disappointment than Sanu.
But if you're talking disappointments, we talk about how running backs are a dime a dozen, and he's got a guy in Giovanni Bernard who's been making plays. Ben Jarvis is only playing about 30 to 40% of the snaps now. I mean, there's not as much pressure on him as there is on this team to have that second weapon, particularly in the red zone. That's why I think Sanu's becomes a bigger disappointment because he's more valuable.
But go back to Miami. 3rd and 2, if you had a short yards running back who could do it, you're not going deep on 3rd and 2. You're going for the first down. And the fact that they haven't run it that often on 3rd and short shows how much of a disappointment it is.
Short yardage running backs are only as good as their offensive line, period. End of discussion.
Move along.
Okay. Last night, controversial call in Carolina. The pass interference, no call, waved off at the end of the game. Joe, was that the correct call to pick up the flag and say the Panthers win?
No, I don't think so. I thought it should have been a pass interference. That when you got 3 people draped over a wide receiver, over a tight end like that, especially late in the game on a defining play like that, I know referees don't want to have the game go down to that. But a flag should have been thrown. And of course, I'm still probably the minority in the Super Bowl who thought that Michael Crabtree got mugged on a pass interference too. It's just when it's that important and the guy's getting mugged and the fact that they said that ball was uncatchable, to me, if Gronk wasn't triple teamed and basically hockey checked, maybe it would have been catchable.
You had Luke Kuechly, a self-admitted bear hug. I'm not going to lie. It was probably a little much. However, the ball was landing about 4 to 5 yards in front of him. He made zero effort to go. If I would have seen Gronkowski attempting to make a move toward that ball instead of giving up on it, I would say that's a flag. But he gave up. He didn't even try to go back and get the ball, and it wasn't because of anything that Kuechly was restraining him on. If I don't see a guy making effort, if there's no progress impeded, which there wasn't because he wasn't attempting to go back and get it, then I say it's the correct call. Wave it off. Panthers win.
There was progress impeded in the front. Plus, it's the Patriots. It's Tom Brady. Of course they shouldn't have picked up that
They're
flag.
supposed to get every call, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, it wasn't a hit on Tom Brady when we know that call would have gone. All right. So number 4, here we go. It's the bye week. Everybody's thinking about what to do with their free time. Best bye week destination, Joe.
Oh, I'm going first this time?
You're going first.
Vegas, baby.
You go Vegas.
I go Vegas.
That hat belongs in Vegas.
Oh, it does. You got a weekend where you can just lounge at the Las Vegas Hilton Sportsbook, watch the games, get a nice weekend buffet at Bellagio, cruise the Strip. I'm just tearing up thinking about it, Paul.
I'm just surprised to hear that from you. A lover of people like you are, to want to go and be around so many people, particularly the idiots that go to Vegas half the time.
I'm a man of the people.
You are, I forgot, how loving you are. I'm going, it's the bye week. There's too many people around. I'm going middle of nowhere, no cell phone service. Put me up in a cabin in the hills of the Smoky Mountains where no one can find me. I'm throwing my cell phone into a lake, and I don't want anybody to talk to me. I'm just going to sit there, enjoy the smells of the fall.
Who the heck are you, Henry David Thoreau?
Maybe I will write something beautiful. You don't know, but I will do it by myself. Doc, did I win?
You know what? I just from that answer alone.
Yes. So much respect
for me. I think you get it.
Yes.
Joe Reedy, Vegas is a dive. You're better than Las Vegas.
It's my dive.
Or maybe you're not.
Maybe you're not.
The notion of throwing your cell phone into a lake alone thrills me.
Thank you, Doc.
You win the debate. I'll go over the other 3 quickly, but you've won. I'm sorry. Wild card, Dolphins or Steelers. I like the Dolphins. They have one more win than the Steelers, which is important at this time of year. I don't think Ben can stay healthy. Dolphins. Biggest disappointment, Sanu or Ben Jarvis. I would have to say Sanu because Ben Jarvis gives you what he gives you, which is 3 yards a carry. I call him 3-yard Benny. Hasn't fumbled. Great runner on first down. Always knows he's going to get the ball. Everybody else knows he's going to get the ball. Still gets his 3 yards. Mohamed Sanu is a hell of a quarterback. No call. Joe Reedy says it was a bad no call. You say it was a good no call. I'm going to side with Reedy. The fact that Gronkowski didn't make an effort to get toward the ball was probably because Kuechly had him in a bear hug. That said, Paul, you're the winner this week because I love the notion of chucking a cell phone into a lake.
Thank you, Doc. I know how to pander to my audience. I realize it's where I had gone wrong before. I had not been playing to my judge, knowing what you wanted to hear. I gave you what you wanted to hear, but I would do that maybe. Well, hey, I want to thank everybody for coming out here to the Moerlein Lager House tonight. We're certainly happy to have you with us. I assume you will continue to drink beer because that's what you do here. I know Doc and I plan on doing some of that. So we'll do that. Also, want to remind you, we're here every single week, 7 o'clock, Moerlein Lager House. You can come join us. You can watch us at Cincinnati.com, on your tablet, on your phone, really anywhere you want to be. Next week, 7 o'clock, Moerlein Lager House. Cincinnati kid J.K. Schaefer will be our guest here, so make sure you come on out, see J.K., come join us. Also, if you were here, you got autographs. We'll have a photo gallery of everybody that got an autograph. Will be up on Cincinnati.com, so make sure you check that out as well. For @Joe Reedy, for @Inquirer Doc, for @Lindsey Patterson, @Paul Daugherty Jr. Find us on Twitter. We'll have all your coverage we're going to go hide for a week because we're going to enjoy the bye week. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. CISA.com Sports, Beyond the Stripes, the Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com.